Let the tea make what? You are now rocking the she, your favorite beat. Lady T in a place to be. And you have now entered the T line. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Lady T up in the mix, yeah, time for the show. Tune into the lounge where you already know. Serving up the gossip, hot, fresh, fast and slow. Hit that subscribe, let the engagement flow. Comments go wild, audience on the go. Attention on point like the rock in the show. All they see is Lady T making it grow. The T down the top, watch it catch and blow.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Tea Lounge. I am Lady T, and the rich do it, the poor do it. I do it because I'm used to it, right? Hey, so it is day 3. I will be reading the transcripts from day 1 after I go over what happened today. And you know what? How do I switch this? How do I switch this? Yeah, okay. So I'm going to be reading the transcripts from day 1, right? We'll do day 1 today, as much as day 1 I can get through. And then I got day 2 already, so we'll do day 2 of the transcript on another day. I will keep you all posted. And when I get day 3, we'll do day 3 and on, right? Now, typically I don't do this. Usually I don't do this, right? But this is getting a little pricey, right? So let me put my Cash App in the chat just in case somebody want to help a sister out, okay? Usually I don't do this, but go on and keep the party going. Hold on. All right, just in case somebody want to help a sister out, you can, right? So now, yesterday I told y'all that I felt like, I don't know, the prosecution, me, have a good day. And from what I just somebody who was in the court, because I'm making like contacts and I'm networking, and they told me, and I haven't gotten a chance to see it yet, but they told me that Tisa Tells had the same sort of thought process, that the prosecution didn't have a good day. And truth be told, when you're in that cafeteria, I'm talking about day 2 now, day 1 and day 2. When you're in that cafeteria and you listen and you hearing the whisperings and stuff like that, people are saying don't seem like the prosecution is, having the best time with this situation, especially in regards to day 2. I'm gonna tell you about day 3. But I just want to catch y'all up to speed. So I'm in the elevator, and Lisa Bloom, Gloria Allred's daughter, is in the elevator. And I guess just before I got on, because they're coming from the floor above me, they must have been saying, like the prosecution, it don't look too good, and so on and so forth. And she said, it don't matter. He's cooked. 65 victims have come forward. Right? That's what Lisa Bloom said, right? I'm saying we got the transcripts. Y'all can make a decision for yourselves. And you can hear what I've been hearing. I'll do my best to try to, give you all of the theatrics so you could get a sense of what's going on. But day 3 rolls around, and this is what I was looking for yesterday. And like Tawiti said, it's a slow burn, right? It's a slow burn. So I was kind of expecting this yesterday. And I mean, it was a roller coaster ride and groundbreaking testimony. And then right at the end, it was a whole shit show. And I'm back feeling the way I was feeling yesterday. And for those who didn't tune in yesterday, I felt like Cassie was being very vague. At one point, I even asked Mims, making sense. I said, do you think, Diddy got to her, something like that? He was like, absolutely not. The lawyer that was sitting next to her was like, nah. It was so vague. And she because I don't think that she wanted it to get to this point. I think she just her funds, you know what I'm saying? And for it to be known that he's an asshole and leave it at that. But federal is what happened when she opened her mouth, right? So you could decipher and decide on how you feel about day 2 when I get to the day 2's transcripts, right? What else? So day 3, right? It starts out, the first thing, let me get to the first page of day 3. 1 second. God, I went through my whole. I'm gonna need another journal. I'm definitely gonna have to buy another journal before I go out there tomorrow. I got another one. I might have to bring that one tomorrow because I'm through. I'm almost through. I walk up into the courtroom, right? And the judge said, yes, I got the juror's letter. I'm like, so I think one of the jurors is no longer a part of the case. I can't be too sure because I wasn't there. But when we get to the transcript, I guess I'm hoping that the transcript includes before court begins. I'll find out because I did not read it ahead of time. I was there, so I ain't read it ahead of time. I'm reading it to y'all. So then Comey, who's on the prosecution, part of the government, wants the evidence that they're going to be using cross-examination before lunch. So they're going back and forth with Argafalo, forgive me if I'm not saying his name right, but you've heard Mark Argafalo, Diddy's lawyer. They're like, look, Diddy's lawyer is like, look, we gave in everything that we were going to be doing on April 27th. I'm not telling you exactly which pieces of evidence. This is day 3 now. We'll get to day 1 in a second. I'm not telling you exactly what pieces of evidence I'm going to be using to cross-examine her with. Y'all got what we're going to be using something we gave you, right? So they was going back and forth, back and forth. Finally, the final verdict was, we ain't giving you shit before lunch. You're going to get it right before we cross-examine her. Okay? Because at first he was like, okay, we could give it to her, but she can't prep her client. They was like, oh no, the judge was like, I can't say that. Once they got the evidence, they can do whatever they want to do with it. So then he was like, well then, nah, we're not going, I'm not going. Right? So now Cassie takes the stand. She's wearing a gray dress with a black jacket, 3/4 length black blazer. Yesterday she was wearing brown dress with like buttery yellow 3/4 length blazer. They're talking about these text messages and everything, and they asked her what was her aliases when she would go to these hotels, and one of them was Veronica Bain. The other one I would have to look back through it. I couldn't. They didn't. Anita something, but it was kind of like The Simpsons, or how like kids would be like, bend over. My name is Bend Over, shit like that. I was like, Veronica Bain. So they were basically talking. They went back over the incident with what's up, Dolly? Oh wait, hold on. I'm sorry. I'm new to this. So let me go through the chat. I usually be in here by myself. To tell the truth. So to Weedy wants y'all to hit that like button. What's going on, T Danielle? Thank you for showing up and showing out. We got Miss Steph in the house. Hey, boo. We got T Danielle again saying hi. JC. Oh, what's up, JC? How you doing? Then we have Miss Steph, and then we got Dolly's game. What's up, boo? All right. So now they're basically going back over that situation where Diddy and Suge Knight got into it at Mel's Diner, and then they went back to the house, him and the bodyguard, and they strapped up and they ran out the house and ran up on somebody or whatever. But I guess it didn't amount to nothing because Suge is still alive and doing life in jail, and Diddy may be right behind him. Time will tell. But at this point, the prosecution is doing such a I'm gonna say how I feel it. Such a piss poor job. Jackie Star. Miss Steph, you better be on it. Jackie Star was the other name. Thank you for not letting me have to go all the way back to the beginning. Okay, that's how much I've been writing. So then it gets to, let me just read what I have here. Sean asked Cassie to verify numerous escorts to find out if they were cops. So one of the prerequisites to securing one of these escorts was to make sure that they weren't cops. And I'm assuming because of the drug use and whatever else was going on at these shindigs, all right? So they was like, well, how would you go about doing that? She was like, I would tell them I'm not a cop, right? And I guess that helped. Hold your mule 1 second. So sorry. Okay, so that was one of the prerequisites. It also says Cassie didn't fight back that day at the hotel, right? One of the things she said in her testimony was that she felt like it was safer for her to just lay there. So y'all remember, we've all seen the Hotel California footage. She just laid there. She said she felt like it was safer. So she basically said she didn't fight back that day at the hotel. However, she would fight back from time to time. So what they're getting ready to do is they know that the defense is getting ready to say, you initiated some of those fights. You put your hands and feet. Well, I don't know about hands and feet. I'm just, you put your hands on feet on Diddy too. You're not innocent, Miss Thing. Okay? We heard about the bar fight. Okay? So sometimes she would fight back, but that was earlier in the relationship. She realized that it would just make it worse. What they said, well, what do you mean by make it worse? It would get more violent, pretty much, right? Now they put out this evidence. The evidence is Sean is a certain angle. Like there's two angles to that Hotel California video. So this is the angle we're all used to. This is the angle that we typically see. Sean comes out into the hallway and grabs a phone out of Cassie's hand. She says she thinks it was her phone. The defense alluded earlier, and I told y'all this on day one, that was Diddy's phone, and it was a situation with in regarding like Kim Porter or something like that, and she took the phone and tried to see what he was texting or something like that, and that's why he was so irate when he came out into the hallway. You know what I'm saying? And then you see after he drags her, she comes back out and makes a phone call to, I believe, hotel security and everything like that, right? But we're gonna fill the potholes in, okay? Cassie can't recall what he was saying during their argument in the hotel, but she says that he threw and while he was throwing the vase, like he was saying something. She can't remember exactly what he said, but he threw the vase and didn't hit her, but it hit the wall. The vases never hit her; they hit the wall. Now, it just dawned on me. No, he said that situation happened in New York, didn't he? Unless he's trying to say that they were in New York. I'm starting because first off, Daniel Phillips is an alias. That's not his real name. But they keep talking about this. But we would see his face. I'll tell you what I was thinking, right? And I can't see their faces that clear because they had the screen kind of small in the overflow. But then just as soon as Sonny Houston was in my courtroom, oh, the screen was, they got that shit together right away. So I never saw his face clear. Like I saw kind of what he looked like. But I don't know if it's this Jules guy or if Jules is somebody different or whatever. But all I know is that Daniel said that there was a vase thrown up against a wall while they were together at one point, right? I don't know if it's the same day. Maybe he's just into throwing vases at her. Okay. Now the next evidence is the video from a different direction. He was saying, "You can't leave me here." Okay, they showed the video from a different direction. One of the things he was texting her, he was saying, "You can't leave me here." She was able to leave the hotel though, right? And go to her apartment via Uber. Here's a text message between him and her. "Sean, call me, yo. Call me. I got 6 kids. Sean, please call. I'm surrounded. I'm surrounded. I'm surrounded. Please call. Cassie, put the robe on." Because remember, he was walking around in his towel. That's what she said back to me. Put the robe on. Sean said, call me now. Cassie said, "I went to security. I got, I checked everything out. Jules is fine. Like everything's good, right?" Now they're saying that Jules was the one that was inside the hotel room. Jules looks like a light-skinned, bald head, funny-looking fella. Okay? That's the best way I could describe him. The next piece of evidence is a selfie taken in the Uber. She had a fat lip and sunglasses to hide her black eye. Now, this black eye and fat lip is happening just before her movie premiere. So this was like on a Friday. Her movie premiere was on a Monday. Okay? Next piece of evidence. Sean text. There's a text message between him and Cassie. "Call me now." And this is not the transcript. This is me. This is my hard work. We're gonna get the transcript of that prayerfully, and we could get all the way into it because I'm shorthanded. People are talking. I'm missing stuff. You know what I'm saying? So, "Call me now. Call me. The cops are here. You're gonna leave me all alone?" She says, "I have a premiere, which is the biggest night of my life coming up, and I got a black eye. You're sick if you think that this is okay. Call me, help. I'm about to be arrested. If you don't pick up, you will. If you don't pick up, you will." God damn, why didn't I finish? Somebody was coughing. That's what happened. No, that's when the lady was snoring and they tapped her and was like, "Miss your snoring." So I missed that part. But then he said something else after that. "I'm getting arrested." But he said something along the lines of if you don't pick up, you're going to regret it. You will regret it. You know what I'm saying? You won't hear from me again. Yeah, you will. If you don't pick up, you will never hear from me again. Or this will be the last time you hear from me, right? This is the last. T. Danielle, you better work. This will be the last time you hear my voice. Plugging my phone in. This is Cassie. Plugging my phone in, going to bed. You should do the same. Now they show a picture of this Carrie Morgan. Carrie Morgan is one of her good friends. They've been friends for like 20 years. They was friends in total about 20 years. We'll get to that later. Cassie refused to say who attacked her when the police came, in regards to that situation at the hotel. She refused to say who attacked her. She said she didn't want to hurt in that way because she wanted to protect him. Of course, she said her exact words was, "Of course, I wanted to protect him. Of course, I wanted to protect him. Of course." Sean tried to get into her apartment several times. she would hear him yelling and banging. Like that was a usual occurrence for him to come up to her apartment and try to get into it, right? So that night she went to D-Rock's house, one of the people who's supposed to be, the way that they're trying to put it, a co-conspirator, you know. Hold on. Not to interrupt. Let me see. You're live. Hit me later. Not to wait, what did she say before that? I missed a and something Crocker. Yeah, there was another alias. I'll hit you later, but I'm not sure if I missed a message. Hold on. Okay, so this is JC. I put a video on my ex of her being interviewed at the movie premiere. She went to 2 days later, no big lip, no black eye, but makeup helped. She also mentioned the after party in the video. Yeah, we got. What's up, Monty? We'll get to that in a second. Is there a way? I want to be able to drop your link, because this is JC. We've been chit chatting and everything at the proceedings and stuff. So I want y'all to go over and check out her channel as well. And I'm not sure what the channel is, so I want somebody to maybe be able to grab the link and put it in the chat so people can subscribe, right? Where was I? Hey, Monty, I'm not sure if I said what's up. She said she didn't want to hurt. Okay, Sean tried to get her into her apartment several times. You know, when he would do these things, she would hear yelling, banging, and commotion. Now, let me just tell you, the way that the testimony goes, it might be talking about one thing 1 minute, and then she'll ask a question, and now we're talking about something else. So forgive the bipolar of it all, right? She went to D-Rock's house because she felt like it was safe. Now, my thing is, if these so-called, like, they're trying to paint out the staff and the security to be like these co-conspirators, the ones who was providing the drugs and the ones who was witnessing her getting beaten and all this other stuff, but yet you went to his house with his wife because you felt safe, right? So now she did a fitting for the movie, and they showed a picture of her a photo of her in her gown for the movie. But she also had to have sunglasses on, and like we just discussed, she had some makeup, but it didn't cover everything. Then they show her like at the premiere, and you could see, like, you know, the makeup wasn't hiding the bruising that great, right? That's the image from the premiere, right? Now they show a picture of the escort Ash. He's from Cowboys and Angels. We saw him in LA. Then they do the escort. They didn't have a name for him. She couldn't remember his name, but he was just bald black and on Broadway, right? Then they had an escort. They called the Islander. They got him from a site, Latin Men, and that was in LA. Then they hired a escort named Tommy, and that was from Cowboys and Indians. I don't know the name. I can't remember the name. Cowboys for Angels or something like that. The point person's name is Garen. Now, then they said they hired Garen. They hired somebody else. She said that he would mainly be in LA mainly, but she can't remember if he traveled anywhere else. So every time I noticed that every time she would say, okay, yeah, we knew so-and-so from New York. Oh, yeah, that one's from LA. Yo, that one was in Miami, though. But when it came to, well, did he travel to another city or state with you all? They would say, she would say, I can't remember. The only time she might say, like, I think that they went, I think they came with us to Vegas. I don't know if there's like, if it's not considered sex trafficking, if they go from LA to Vegas or something like that, but it seems like she's not giving no definitive answers when it comes to whether or not somebody from New York came to LA or whatever. But it does seem like Jules might have traveled, right? And I don't know how they're going to spin it or turn it or flip it around, but that's pretty much what was going on. I just wrote as a note. She's off. She says we often, you know. She had sex with all of them, but doesn't know for sure if they were all paid if they were paid. If they were paid, it was Sean's money, but she gave them the money. So if y'all haven't been keeping up so far, every time it came to booking the escort, paying the escort, all of that stuff, it is coming from her. When there's a text message or email, it's saying, so he's not saying get some, not, well, I could be wrong about that, but I don't recall one. It's just basically her booking, her paying, her getting the drugs. She's saying in the background is him. And I'm not saying that it's not. But like someone said to me today, if you working for somebody, you working at a job and y'all have a meeting and you go in an email, you say, great meeting, learned a lot. Ooh, okay. Give me a second. I'm going to have to pull this up and show it to you all in a second, right? So, whenever they would do that, I mean, when you say, oh, it's a great meeting, like that's what you said in your email, right? Let's say, what's up, Kimberly Black? When you go back later on and be like, yeah, well, that's not how I really felt. People give a fuck your feelings. You said in this email, that is the fact. You understand what I'm saying? So all of this, now mind you, I came into the situation ready to throw Diddy under the jail. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking from a very unbiased standpoint. The prosecution is looking real weak right now. I'm just letting you know how it's going down in court. But when we read the transcript, you could go over it. I'm going to try to breeze through this so we could get to day one. All right. There was a text message that she said something about this is the part that blew my muffin cap back blue. Now, we have established that she does not use condoms and protection with these guys. And oftentimes they will ejaculate in her or on her, right? And I'm wondering how many times how many procedures had to happen. I'm just wondering, right? The prosecution asked her, well, what part of this, like, what was there anything that made you uncomfortable or like made you the most uncomfortable, right? And she said, yeah, she really was against kissing. It was too intimate. These niggas are ejaculating in you, and you have a problem with the kissing? That was at the top of your list? That was at the top of your list? It's hard for me to get this website onto here because I would have to do too much transferring or whatever. So I'm going to share when I get off of here. I'm going to share the video on my community wall. Okay, the one that I just got sent. What y'all saying in here? Monty said this is crazy work. Miss Steph is going my. JC said tell it, because JC been in there. JC been in the court. Okay, baby, it's all too intimate. But she don't mind the pee. I don't like kissing either, but I would rather kiss you than have to pee in your, than have you pee in my mouth. Okay. Everybody's talking about the peeing in the mouth. Okay. She has been damaged in every aspect of her, physically and emotionally. Stay tuned. Stay tuned because we do get to that. She does get some help from that, and from there it goes into some other stuff after she's received the help. But I want to go in order, okay? Now, it's her 29th birthday. Surprised in LA. After dinner, she wanted to go to the club. I think it was called Blind Dragon, but Sean wanted to FO, which is a freak off. They did go to the club, but they left early to please Sean with the FO, right? So then they asked her, what does blackmail material constitute? She said pretty much videotapes, text message, videotapes was what she meant by blackmail material. And she said when Sean was angry, he would mention the videos, right? That happened common. He would mention putting out the video often. She was afraid to release the video, that he would release these videos. She would fear for her career and her family and make her look like a slut and be shamed. At some point, I don't know if it was a decade in or half a decade in or 4 months in. At some point, fuck that. Put the video out. You're the one who's sitting in the corner with a mask on, a robe, and that fitted in some socks. At some point. Because it was on and on and on and on and on. Now she's getting into the fact, they're like, how do you recover from these freak offs? Well, we would get IVs and massages and have dinner and relax. She would take opioids. Her thing was opioids. She liked opioids. She didn't need Sean to get her no opioids. She was gonna get her own opioids, okay? But at first, he supplied the opioids, and she said that she was able to get them through a doctor. The doctor would prescribe it, okay? And there's a lot of doctors around the Trump Towers, just sidebar, that bust scripts or whatever they call it, right? So now, she said she would have stomach issues all the time, and she would have frequent UTIs, right? Then she would get sores on her tongue from the oral sex. She texted one time like, "Yeah, I'm having like a rough morning, all that dick sucking and shit. I got sores in my mouth. I can't really eat too good. I can't enjoy my food and shit." He's like, "Oh, you're not feeling too good?" I'm like, "What?" They were like, "Well, but where would the sores come from?" "Oh, I guess maybe like the lube." Ma'am. I believe this is a quote. "A lot of dicks, a lot of partying," is what homegirl said. She would feel achy and emotionally. They said, "Well, how did you feel emotionally?" Because they like, give us something. She said she felt empty, especially if she didn't get to kick it with him after. They need the psychologist ASAP to make this make sense. Like now. We haven't even gotten to the cross examination yet. I was talking to somebody, they thought she was being cross examined. I was like, "No, that's the prosecution." They was like, "What?" They would go to these sex clubs with special rooms. Remember Cat Williams' child? She visited a few with Sean and that Jules guy. They like that Jules guy. There was one in Las Vegas called the Green Door. They also went to sex clubs in New York and LA. Swinging was a turn on for Diddy. Diddy explained it was like told her, because she didn't know what swinging was, I guess, at first, and he said it's swapping partners. Okay. Escorts attended sex clubs with them, namely Jules. They did X pills, GHB, ketamine, all of that. She would have sex with Sean and Jules. She didn't want to, she said. Not at the club. That was a quote. Not, those are her words and not mine. I didn't want to, not at the club. Jules was a safe place. They had a friendship. Those were her words and not mine. So when does the person become an escort? And when do you get to fly with somebody that you have sex with? Can you fly with your friend? Just a question. She would have to drink prior to going to the sex clubs, right? Now, when Prince came up, I said, what does he have to do with this? She was her birthday or some occasion, she got invited out to go to this party where Prince was gonna be performing at Prince's house and everything like that. So she was going with her friends and they were gonna link up and go to this party, and Prince was gonna be performing, and she was excited. Diddy found out about that, said, you going where, doing what, with who? Oh, no. He showed up to the party and she got irritated and left, right? It wasn't a sex party, nothing like that. Prince was having a get together at his house where he was gonna perform. Okay. Don't y'all start don't start no shit. Okay. Don't. This was like then there was like a party at the Abbey or something like that. And she called him up, was like, yeah, gay night be lit or something like that. Now after the party, they all go back. Mia, her friend Mia, and her friend Deontay went back to her apartment, and Diddy was there. He tried to attack her, and her friends Mia and Deontay jumped on his back. He hit the friend hit some kind of like coffee table or something like that. And no, he jumped on her back and he made Cassie fall and hit her head on a coffee table or nightstand or something like that. And she had got a cut on her eye. So now they're showing evidence and pictures from when she got cut on her eye and everything. They're showing how like she was out and she had to put a bang on it and all that other stuff. But here's the thing, and y'all could go back to my video on Diddy where I told y'all that he beat Kim up and got her a plastic surgeon, right? He got Cassie a plastic surgeon to fix that cut on her eye. All right. So it was a horrible gash. August 5th, she sent a picture of it to him and said, so you remember. He texts her back, you don't know when to stop. You pushed it too far and you continue to push it. Now there's a pic of her in French Montana. She's hiding the gash, right? The Cannes Music Festival, he kicked her off the boat with no shoes on when he suspected she stole some of his drugs. It was a nose job for Kim. Thank you, JC. Right? Miss Steph remembers too. Diddy wasn't invited to the party. Prince wasn't having none of that shit. I love it. Okay. So where we at? So when it was back, so he kicked off the boat or whatever, right? She got attacked some kind of way, and they tried to her and her friend was like hiding under some kind of tow truck for like a half an hour. They were scared or whatever. When they're on their way back on the plane, he showed her video of the freak offs. I guess she said it made her feel like as if he was going to try to threaten her to put it out, right? She told him more than once she didn't want to do the freak offs. They asked her that. Now then she gets a text message from him, and I think this was around, I can't see what date it was, but the text message blew my muffin cap back blue, and everybody in the courtroom act like they didn't hear what I heard. And I know once I say it, y'all gonna hear it too. She said that the text message said from Diddy, Where's my pizza? And she said, picking it up now. Hold your mule. I'm getting to the transcript. I got it pulled up just to let y'all know. Just to let y'all know. I'm just trying to get through day 3. And I didn't even get to the literal groundbreaking testimony yet. But give me a second because I don't know what's going on with my AC. One moment. Okay. So let me get to the chat. So what you saying what the fuck about oh I forgot what I just said. So she was picking up something else? Okay. JC, I'm gonna tell you that you know how like sometimes like it's some stuff I don't want to touch on here. I'm gonna talk to you, but they know. And I'm gonna let you know in a second, but I'm just gonna put that right there. There was a text message on January 7th, 2017 that says from Diddy. Oh no, from Cassie. Nothing good comes out of these freak offs anymore. You treat me like Ike Turner. Okay. So now they're going through you know, they found like where did they find these pieces of evidence? And she basically said they were in my laptops, and yes, they were broken, you know. And so I'm wondering if she broke them thinking that they wouldn't be able to get to them. They like, nah, bitch, we still can see, right? Now they are not showing these images. They specifically said they can't show it to us. So these must be the images that are showing the stills from the videos of the freak offs, and they're identifying people. There's somebody named a friend of hers that used to work for Diddy as his assistant that they are referring to as Nia. Y'all do your due diligence and please bring back to me who the hell is Nia. Was it his assistant? Is it Misa? I mean, I don't know. Nia. And at one point, I thought they were saying Mia. Then they started saying Nia, and they was like, "You've said Nia. We're gonna keep going with Nia." So I think she might have messed up some kind of way, and they just was like, "From now on, it's Nia." So everybody's clear. Then they show a still of they show a image that we can't see of her and Jules, an image that we can't see of her and Dave, image of her that we can't see of her and Greg. And the whole time I'm thinking there was Tisha, Letitia, Vonda, and Rhonda, Yonda, Yolanda, and Donna, Donna. Like she could do one of those. Yo, she needs a PR agent. Bump it. Come out with the Cassie remix of DMX's. There was Brenda, Letitia, Wanda, and Rhonda. Like, yeah, Yolanda. About 2 Kims. You know what I'm saying? Like, we would be like, ah. No, we wouldn't. Talking shit. Then they showed the video. She must have been really greasy. Can y'all hear me? Can y'all hear me? Because I see my thing is doing something weird, right? So then there was a picture of her, and it was like, "What's that on your skin? Baby oil." I promise you, if I never hear the words "baby oil" again, it won't. If I hear the words "baby oil" again, it will be too soon. Enough baby oil between yesterday and today to last me a lifetime. I don't even want to buy baby oil no more. I'm using cocoa butter and and maybe the gel. No oil. I don't even want to fry nothing. I want adult oil, okay? Oh my God, I'm really telling you. So at some point, Sean knocked Nia, this assistant person, around in the car. So now he's beating on other people. Wait, Sean knocked around. Oh, no. Nia was in the car with them when Sean knocked Cassie around, and he hit her upside the head and knocked her to the floor. Excuse me, but Nia was in the car because they was asking her, has anyone witnessed this? She's like, yeah, Nia saw this. Cassie punched him in the face one time after he called her a slut or a bitch. His demeanor changed and his eyes would go black. She kept on saying his eyes would go black. And he proceeded to attack her and stomped her in the face. The whole ride was a fight. So it was like freaking Ike and Tina in the limo, right? She got out the car, took off running down the street. She saw her face. It did not look, and she did not look like herself at all, and she was throwing up. When he reached her house, when he reached her at his home, all I know is that she was trying to go home to her mother, right? But instead, she stayed at the hotel because Sean said, absolutely not, you're not going home. She did not feel safe. She knew his capabilities, his access to guns, etc. She was not allowed to stay at the house. Now somebody seen this fight and her running down the street and trying to get to his house, and they put up a blind item or like some kind of, like, yo, this happened with Diddy, so on and so forth. But it was like a troll account. Her mother saw that. She was like, yo, you good? She was like, nah, Mom, I'm fine. But that was before FaceTime. Anyway, she does she stays with her makeup artist Mila after the fight with Diddy. Wait, did they go back to something else? I told you they jumped back and forth. She also said she didn't want to put her mother in danger. That's why she didn't want to necessarily go home, right? But she does go home, and the mother sees her. And what does the mother do? We didn't even get to that. We about to get to Kid Cudi. Then we get Kid Cudi, then the incident, and then we gonna go to the transcript. They jumped off of the mother and went to Kid Cudi. Don't ask why. It's in order. So anyway, she started seeing Kid Cudi. She didn't tell Sean. He found out one time after a freak off. After that, Sean went through his phone and lunged at her with the wine bottle. He went through her phone, found out that she was fucking with Kid Cudi, and lunged at her with the wine bottle opener like that, right? But she had a burner phone, so she was still seeing Kid Cudi. They found out about it, had a meeting, and that's so then Cassie was saying that he was threatening her and Kid Cudi and said he wanted to blow up her car and blow up his car, and he wanted to do it in front of his friends. So they had a meeting, her, Cassie, and Diddy. And as soon as Kid Cudi said, so what you said about my car, the meeting was. But didn't he blow it up? Isn't that why he's doing? There's arson involved. She goes to Connecticut. Her mom takes pictures of her injuries, right? This girl is beat up. At that point, I started crying. I walked out the courtroom, got myself some tissue, came back in. I didn't miss much, but it was horrible. She had bruises all over her body. Like, it was terrible, horrible, horrible. And her mother had to take those pictures, right? So she told her mom, look, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to get back to LA and get some music done. She didn't go to LA. She went to Arizona to be with Diddy. Then her friend of, by that time, this is 2018, her friend of 18 years got oops upside her head by Diddy with a hanger when he walked in and saw them using his drugs. That's what I thought. So he did it anyway. So then she's no longer friends with Carrie Morgan, because Carrie Morgan now is getting it. So where we at? So now they ask her, well, who else has seen you get attacked? She was saying that the security guards and some of the assistants and all this other stuff. They said, have you? After the Carrie Morgan thing, they said, well, has he put his hands on anybody else? She was like, not that I can remember. The prosecutor said, not. She kind of like, and she was like, let me just show you this picture. She shows her the picture. It's the Asian girl, right? Now, my question is this. How do you forget that Diddy hung somebody off of a 17th floor balcony? They show her the picture. She's like, yeah, well, he takes, they got into it. He grabs her, hangs her over the 17th balcony, pulls up, I guess they, who was it? I think D-Rock or somebody, wait. Did I skip too far ahead? Did I skip too far ahead? I did. I skipped the page. Sorry. She said she used to carry arnica around for the bruising. Okay. There was one time she got beat up so bad, D-Rock and James Cruz was crying. Like, they started to well up. And then he texted her, where are you at? It's time to ice your face. And she said she always had arnica and gel for the bruises. Sorry, I had to go back a little bit. So she didn't want to stay in the hotel, so she stayed at his house. And he kept on texting her saying, my son can't see you like that. Make sure you put on a lot of makeup, right? He also he punched and dragged one of his assistants. Right, here we are. He punched and dragged one of his assistants that was sleeping in the bed because she didn't give Diddy her phone. He wanted the assistant's phone. She wouldn't give it to him, so he dragged her up out of the bed. He also hit somebody else named Eli upside the head. So he done fucked up Carrie Morgan, Nia, or whoever, and Eli. Then they asked her, did he assault anyone else? She said she can't remember. And that's when they showed her the picture of the girl, like, oh, you don't remember him throwing this girl over the balcony? And then having to pull her up. And when he pulled her up, he threw her into the patio chairs. How you forget that? Pregnancy brain is a thing. that Mia, let me tell you something, Monty. I've been saying this the whole time. And I know that people are out there saying some things on the internet. This girl is purposely holding information back. You gotta be in there. She is so vague. She is just you know how she's acting on the stand? She's acting like a very, what's the word? She's acting like Woody. Remember Woody from the the young the she's it's like, you know. So my thing is the way that it sounds so far, 30 million in the bank account. We gonna get to that. The way it sounds so far, it sounds like she was a madam. Was it Chuck Turner? She got her ass beat. Everybody's saying, yeah, she got her ass beat, but this ain't a domestic violence case. What is happening with this racketeering? What is happening? And we're going to get to it. Y'all can make your own decisions because, you know, you don't have to take it from me, but you don't have to take my word for it. The more you know. Dun-dun-dun, right? So there was she kept a meat cleaver by the door, you know, kind of like jamming it to keep it from getting in. But I'm thinking if he gets in, he could use it to what you call it? No madam would be in her position of getting peed on. Yeah, so she was more like his bottom bitch. But the way that it's coming off out here, what they got on record, on wax, is her. I feel like, and I looked in somebody who had missed the day before his testimony was in there. Today was better. But somebody who wasn't there yesterday was there today. And when she said, yeah, they was like, they asked her something. So what would he do? What would happen if you didn't do it or something like that? She said, I feel like his head went back. Like, I feel like he would, you don't know what would happen. You have to, and it was like speculation. It was like objection, speculation. Because she was speculating all over the place. I'm telling you, speculating. And some people like to get peed on. I don't know what's going on. But she was abused. I saw and they're copping to that, you know. Moving on, because I'm gonna wrap this puppy up and then we're gonna read. So now I did not write what date it was. Was it March 1st? I was into the testimony. It might have been on March 1st, 2019. But one of those days, they finally break up when she caught him with another woman and ended the relationship. Right? And that's around the time she began seeing her husband. Okay. Then she went to go meet Diddy at his apartment, and he raped her on the living room floor, according to Cassie, right? At that point, everybody go, like, we're gasping in the courtroom, right? And we're like, oh my God. So I'm just sitting there and she's talking about the rape, and everybody's just like, yeah, here we are. Yes. Bravo, prosecution. Bravo. Yes. Tell us about it. Damn shame. This raggedy ass nigga. Then what happened? I had sex with him again after that. We were like, what? The lady in front of me, I forgot who what affiliate she worked with, she said they're going to, the defense is going to eat her alive tomorrow. Because after she was raped, she went and had sex with it, and they had a good time, according to her. Those were her words and not mine. Did the government seem as though they were irritated with her testimony at all? I wouldn't be able, I couldn't tell. But I was more so irritated, not with her testimony. I'm talking about the prosecution. Why aren't you asking any follow-up questions? You know, so today they asked a few follow-up questions because they must have told her about herself. Like, you got to ask follow-up questions. You can't just let her say he made me feel and leave it at that. Ask her follow-up. We don't know anything about how she felt emotionally. We don't know this. And so when she was answering it, she was like, emotionally, I felt empty. Well, what would he what would he do if you didn't uh follow through with the freak off? Um, I feel like he would have. You feel like he would have. Yep, they're gonna tear her up. I said to myself, why did she add they had a good time? It's almost like she's giving the defense what they need. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, did he get to her? I don't know. So then she goes on to say, well, after this incident, she realized that she needed to get some help. So she went to rehab and she went to, this was like in February of 2023. She went to rehab and trauma therapy. And I was like, that's exactly where she needs to be, right? And so from that, she started the healing process and she just began to just heal and really understand exactly what it was that she had been going through all this time. In 2023, in February of 2023, she realized what she was going through all this time. So she just began to write. And what she began to write came out in the form of a book. And so she began to send Diddy chapters of the book because she wanted him, in her words and not mine, to see what hold on, to see okay, let me read what I wrote. She began writing a book. She really wanted Sean to read and understand what she understood. That's why she was sending him the chapters of the book, right? So she reached out to some lawyers and to get him the book chapters. And she said, she asked KK if he read it. And she said, Sean said it wasn't, she said she got KK to see if Sean read it. And her words exactly was, KK said it wasn't taken seriously. So she tried to get the book published for $30 million, but they did not. She wasn't able to garner a book deal. So that's when she sued him and she settled out of court for $20 million. And that is literally where the day ended. Thoughts, opinions? Who wants to come up while I read this transcript? I'm about to drop the link. Let me take this out. So I'm going to pull up. I'm going to take this out because I'm not sure if I'll see anybody if they want to come up. But I'm going to begin to read the transcript, right? Now, with the transcript, I can't, see the chat and see you guys, right? So her initial goal was to get a book deal. When it didn't work out, she basically fished it. No, reverse. She was sending chapters of the book to Diddy. One of the people that was in the courtroom said, yeah, she was those were threats to Diddy, right? But she asked, I guess as the book was about to be finished or whatever, she tried to get it published. So she sent, as she's writing it, she's sending chapters to Diddy. He ain't taking it seriously, right? When she goes to get it published, she could not secure a book deal. So then after that, that's when in October, she went to the police or whatever, and they settled out of court. Because at one point he was like, you know, she was like, what did he say? Something along the lines of he sent like a threatening text, like, yeah, you know, something about freak offs or whatever. But she said, oh no, buddy boy, it's way more than freak offs, you know. It ended. The jury has to go to bed saying, well, damn, she got raped, and then she went and slept with him again. And then after that, she went to a trauma thing. She decided to write a book. And when she couldn't get the book there, she then sued him. You can put out a book independently, you know. Just a thought. Miss Healed. Wouldn't that be cathartic? Wouldn't that be cathartic? Let's get into the transcript. Like I said, in order for me to read it, I have to go to another. I can't see it from here, so I got to go to another window. So I'm not going to be able to see the comments right away. Okay. Now I do think that people would buy the book, right? But now we got transcripts out that I'm getting ready to read, so you can buy the book and hear, you know, things that's just not said in court and all that other stuff. If she's going to put the book out, I would imagine that part of the settlement would be that she can't publish a book, I would imagine. Well, I'm gonna say innocent. See, this is the thing, Monty, and I hope everybody, because I'm this is what I've been afraid of. I'm not saying that Diddy's not innocent. I'm not saying that he is innocent. What I'm saying is the way things are going in court is not going well for the prosecution. Remember, the burden of proof is on the prosecution. That's where the burden of proof is. And they have to prove racketeering, which means that you have to have had an enterprise. You got to prove that. Right now, all that the jury has is that she booked the escort. She looked for the escort. She scrolled it. Yeah, that one. What do you think? Papa? Yeah, okay. If that's what you like, let's go for it. All right. Here's the money. Nobody sees that. All the escorts know is that when they got the money, who gave you the money? Cassie. They can assume, they can infer that the money came from Diddy. But when it was handed to them, it was handed over to them by Cassie. Now, there's a lot more to go into. This is just the beginning. So now, instead of me, you know, giving my opinion, let's just read what happened on day one, right? I'm going to read some of it, and we'll try to get through it because it's a lot. It's a lot of pages, right? So we have the United States District Court, Sean Combs, aka Puff Daddy, aka P Diddy, aka Diddy, aka PD, aka Love, right? That's the defendant. And then it's taking place in, you know, in court. Let's move on. It starts in the robing room. Ooh, so I do think it's gonna come. Wait, do I have the right one up? All right, so yeah. One thing on this is Mr. Agnifilo, okay? Agnifilo is speaking. One thing on the record, the court's one thing on the record, the court's record. I'm happy to do it on the record. I'm going to ask that victim number one, when she testifies, be already in the box when the jury comes in. Only as to her, only because of her physical condition. I mean, there are certain things we can't control, but a juror who is 8.5 months pregnant. But I think there's a quality to her walking in front of the jury that I think is easily avoidable. I'm not making an application for any of those witnesses. The court, wait, let me make sure I understand. Mr. Agnifilo, yes, the court. Ms. Comey, who was your first witness? Ms. Comey, first witness is Israel Flores. The court, that's what I thought. When we get to the third witness, which is Ms. Ventura, Ms. Comey, correct, Your Honor. The court. Then when we get to our third witness, just for the purposes of that witness, yes. You would like her to be already sitting in the witness box. Yes. When the jury comes in, correct. All right. Let me think about that. Ms. Comey, Your Honor, we would object. If Your Honor is considering it, I would like it to be heard on that. I don't think there are any basis to treat any witnesses differently because of a medical condition, most notably pregnancy. I think that would be deeply inappropriate. Now, Mr. Agnifilo didn't want to have them see her waddling to the witness box. Oh, no, we don't need no sympathy. She could be sitting her behind down, so it's not so obvious that she's in a condition, right? Mr. Agnifilo, I can make the application. It doesn't have to be done now. It can be done before she testifies. I'm good for the court. I'll think about it. Ms. Comey makes the point. We wouldn't treat people differently based on any other sort of medical condition or physical impairment or any attribute, right? Why would we treat this differently, Mr. Agnifilo? Because I think there's a prejudicial quality. Pregnancy is a beautiful, he said it flat out. Pregnancy and wonderful. It's also a source of potential sympathy. They said it. The court, they're going to see the witness 100%. Aren't they also going to see the witness leaving the witness stand? What are you trying to achieve? Yo. Oh my God. Wait, did somebody come backstage? My apologies. Hi, what's up? How long you been back there? I'm sorry.
I haven't been back long. That's okay. Can you
Okay.
hear me okay?
I can hear you good. No problem.
Hey, how
What's
are
up?
you? I
I'm
just wanted to ask you a question because you said something earlier that my mind had been thinking about for the last 2 days, really since the first day when the escort Phillips testified to the fact that he would ejaculate in her.
Yes.
Today I was thinking to myself, because when I look at things and I look at a case, I think of proof. I gotta when it comes to finding someone guilty, you gotta have proof. Outside of all of this beatings that he has done, that is obviously proof that he's done that. We've seen it on TV. He's not being charged with that. But he's being charged with literally coercing her, making her do the freak offs. And she wasn't willing to do them. So when I think of that, I think of proof. And I thought one of the ways that she could prove it, or they could possibly prove that he made her physically do certain things, is if she ever got pregnant when that guy was doing that, or those multiple guys were doing that. And if maybe he sent her text messages telling her she had to get rid of the baby.
I would think that unless it's going to come out, because right now we're at the end of end of the prosecution's direct questioning. So I think that the prosecution has a few more questions that's going to happen tomorrow. Up until now, they haven't said anything about her being pregnant. They haven't mentioned anything about that. So that might be a bombshell tomorrow before the course examination. But right now, I think they would have said it by now.
I
Right
think so too.
now,
I think they would have said it.
all we have is what we got. And
Uh,
we got, she would say vague, I didn't want to, but probably, she's initiating it. She's sending text messages, I want to fuck. And when you are reading these text messages, even when she says things like I love you and all that stuff, he doesn't respond back. I don't see any, outside of the fact that they started to go public a little bit more towards the end of their relationship. It seemed like a very sex buddy, sneaky link type of situation,
And
like,
I also thought of, like, when I was listening to the testimony, I was kind of on Twitter, and is there's guy called Inner Press or something, where he kind of was tweeting it, the actual conversation or whatever was going on in court, but he couldn't obviously tweet everything.
mhm,
And I was trying to listen to keywords when she was kind of testifying, explaining things, to show her taking ownership of what they were doing. And there were certain times where she would say, like, our secret. We didn't want them to know our secret. That to me let
mhm,
me know that in her mind at that time, that was their secret. And she
mhm.
looked at it like they were doing that together. To
That's how
me,
she
that doesn't,
that's how she was presenting it. But the thing about it is, I feel like they have to hear, like, I could, like, I don't know. I don't have to do day one. I could go to day two, her testimony, if y'all hear what the other people had to say. But I think that it all comes together. Like, you would need day one to understand two, and we could day two tomorrow. You know what I mean? But
yeah.
for me, one thing to hear what, especially what was happening in that courtroom, you know, um, very, very key. So hold on one second. Let me get to the next part. Right. So the court said, what are you trying to achieve? Mr. Agnefello says, well, so past trials, and each trial is different. I've certainly had situations where the jury was excused before the witness either sat down or left the witness stand, and I would make that application for all the witnesses. Except I think it takes a certain more, little bit more time. That's what it says. Except I think it's a certain more, little bit more time. So I wasn't going to do that in the interest of time. I've always preferred the procedure where the witness is seated, then the jury comes in. I've probably made most of my trials with that as the process. Well, the court does that too when it forces efficiency. I'm sure that we will actually do that at this trial. But you're making a different application. You're saying we will, in fact, have witnesses seated whenever the jury comes in, and there's an objection to that. Fair one that I don't want. That I don't know what there is. And I'm sorry. Let me have to do like old school. And that's a fair one. That I don't know that there is any support anywhere in the history of American jurisprudence. You can find that for me. You've got time. I've heard. I tend to agree. However, you got until the afternoon because this isn't going to happen if it happens today at all. I think you've got some time. If you have any support for that, I'm happy to take a look at it. The deputy clerk, Your Honor, can we go off the record? Recess. Now, this is in open court. My courtroom deputy, are we prepared to proceed? Clerk, yes, Your Honor. We'll check on them right now. Miss Shapiro, Your Honor, I'm sorry. Can I just put one thing on the record? The court, yes. Miss Shapiro, we just want to note to supplement the Batson application, Your Honor has denied that in addition to the points Mr. Agnefello made, the two of the black individuals struck number 161 and 163 were the only two black men in the first 28. All right, Your Honor, I don't think that's right. In the first 28, Ms. Shapiro, in the first 28. Sorry, Mrs. Comey, I didn't tell you who that is. So the government, Your Honor, you don't I don't think that's right. In the first 28, Ms. Shapiro, in the first 28, the court, that's what Ms. Comey, I don't think that's right. If I could correct the record, juror number 184, who is on the jury, I believe is a black man. Well, I think we have the government's response. And Ms. Comey, do you think any further do you have anything further in response to Ms. Shapiro's submission? Your Honor, I would want to record. I would want the record to also reflect that there are other men who weren't non-white men who also seated on the jury. I think I noted that, but given. I don't think that's correct, Ms. Shapiro, says Ms. Shapiro. The court, all right, I understand that you have supplemented the record. Ms. Comey has responded, and the Batson application continues to be denied. So with that, at this point, Mr. Courtroom Deputy, are we prepared to bring in the jury? The Deputy Clerk, yes, Your Honor, the court. All right, let's bring in the jury. Please be seated. The Deputy Clerk, Your Honor, I'll confirm that I have jurors seated in the correct position. Are you juror number 2? Yes. The Deputy Clerk, are you juror number 5? Yes. Are you juror number 25? Yes. Are you juror number 55? Yes. Are you juror number 58? Yes. Are you juror number, remember when they fucked up? Are you juror number 75? Yes. Are you juror number 116? Thank you. Are you juror number 160? No, are you juror number 116? The Deputy Clerk, thank you. I don't know what happened. That doesn't make any sense. Are you juror 160? Yes. The court, are you juror number 148? Are you juror number 201? Correct. Are you, maybe they're nodding their head. Are you juror number 217? Yes. Proceeding to the last row. Are you juror number 230? Yes. Are you juror number 234? Yes. Are you juror number 292? That's why we do this. Are you juror 292? Yes. Great. Thank you. Are you juror 321? Yes. Are you juror 330? Yes. Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, the court. Thank you for bearing with us through the jury selection process. Welcome back to the United States District Court of the Southern District of New York. As you were told when you were here for the jury selection, I am Arnum Samir. You know how to say this man's name? Did you drop
I
down?
think it's Subramanian or something like that.
Okay, Submaranian. And will be presiding over the trial, Submaranian. And will be presiding over the trial in this case, United States of America versus Sean Combs. Trial will begin shortly with open statements. We will sit every weekday until trial is over with the exception of court holidays. Our anticipated schedule had not changed since I last spoke to you. The attorneys and I expect this trial to be over before July 4th. Obviously, it is possible that the trial could go longer, but I don't expect that it will. Every day this week, we will be here from 9:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. After this week, we will go from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. each day, and we will continue to make your trial experience as smooth and pleasant as possible. If any issues come up, please contact your courtroom deputy. A light breakfast will be available every trial day in the jury room at 8:30, and I encourage you to arrive early so as to not delay the other jurors and participants in this trial. I think he meant to say, or maybe, I don't know. We will take a shorter than usual break for lunch. I'm anticipating about 30 minutes, but we will have provided for you in the jury room, so you don't need to leave the courthouse or take that additional. The reason we will have a shorter break in the middle of the day is so that we leave earlier. That is the point, so that you can have more time to attend the things you need to do while conducting this trial. Of course, if you need proceedings for an urgent personal reason, you should leave the courtroom you should let the courtroom deputy know. But I will make every effort to move this trial along promptly and make efficient use of your time. Now, the names and identities of the jurors are known to the court, and both parties will keep your names and identities in confidence in order to protect your privacy. that personal information and you will not be disclosed to the public. This is no way unusual. It's common practice followed in the many cases in federal courts that is being followed here in this case. The deputy will now swear in the jury. Is there anyone in the jury who does not swear an oath but affirm? Put your hands down for a minute. Now, this is the thing. I wonder why these jurors weren't sequestered. I'm so sorry. Hold on. Sorry. My allergies is kicking my butt. But let's go. So, is there anyone who does not take an oath? You can raise your hands. Now, members of the jury, wait, hold on. I wanted to see what was going on in the chat before I went back. Oh, he had her brainwashed for sure. Listen, I'm not saying that he hasn't had a brainwash. Trust me. We see it. We see, that's 9 times out of 10 what's going on. I'm just, let me just finish reading the thing. I'm just telling you what we've been seeing. Like, am I tripping? Have you been seeing the same thing in your opinion when it comes to the testimony that Cassie's given? JC? She might be having trouble coming off of mute, but she might join us again. Hold on one second. So now, members of the jury, now that you have been sworn in, I will give you some preliminary instructions, guide you in your participation in the trial. I'm going to skip past this and go to the opening arguments. Where are we? You know what? I think it's important for y'all to hear what he instructed the jury to do. I'm sorry. Let's go back. To begin with, you are here to administer justice in this case according to the law and evidence. You are to perform this task with complete fairness and impartiality, without bias, prejudice, or sympathy for or against any of the parties. It will be your duty to find from the evidence what the facts are. You and you alone will be the judges of the. You will have to apply those facts to the law as the court will give it to you. You must follow the law whether you agree with it or not. Nothing that I say or do during the trial is intended to indicate or should be taken by you as indicating what your verdict should be. The evidence from which you will find the facts will consist of testimony of witnesses, documents, and other things received into the record as exhibits, as well as any facts that the parties agree to or stipulate to that court, the court may instruct you to find. Certain things are not evidence and must not be considered by you. I will list them for you now. First, statements, arguments, and questions by lawyers are not evidence, nor are my own statements to you. Only the answers given by the witnesses and the documents admitted. Oh, he's in the back. Hold on. What's up, ZX? How you doing?
Hey, Queen.
Hey, how's everything?
All right.
All right. So, have you been listening? Did you just come in?
Yeah, I only listen to you because you're there, and I think your perspective is a good viewer. So I'm gonna continue to let you do your thing, and then I'll chime in.
Okay, no problem. Right. So, let's see. First, where we at? Okay, let me just go back over that. Let me just read that last line. Sorry. Certain things are not evidence and must not be considered. I will list them for you now. First, statements, arguments, questions by lawyers are not evidence, nor are my statements to you. Only the answers given by the witnesses and the documents admitted as evidence. Second, objections to questions are not evidence. The lawyers have an obligation to their client when evidence is being offered the evidence being offered is improper under the rules of evidence. You should not be influenced by the court's ruling of an objection. If the objection is sustained, a question. If it's overruled, treat the answer like any other. So anytime that it's like, okay, sustained. You made a valid point. You're not supposed to consider anything that was said. So I got to remember that too, because for me, I'm taking it all in, right? When I'm listening. If you're instructed that some item of evidence is received from a limited purpose only, you must follow that instruction. Third, testimony that the court has excluded or told you to disregard is not evidence and may not be considered. Finally, anything you may have seen or heard outside the courtroom is not evidence and must be disregarded. You are to decide this case solely on the evidence presented here in this courtroom. When you are determining the facts, keep in mind that there are two kinds of evidence: direct and circumstantial. Direct evidence is direct proof of a fact, such as testimony or of an eyewitness. Circumstantial evidence is proof of a fact from which you may infer or conclude that other facts exist. The word infer, or the expression of the drawer of an inference, means that to find that a fact is from of another fact. An inference is to be drawn only if it's logical, reasonable to do so, not by speculation or guesswork. In deciding whether to draw the inference, you must look and consider all the facts in light of reason, common sense, and experience. Let me read that again. In deciding whether to draw an inference, you must look at and consider all the facts in light of reason, common sense, and experience. Whether inference is or is not to be drawn is entirely a matter for you, the jury, to decide. Circumstantial evidence does not necessarily mean prove less than direct, nor does it necessarily prove more. He said, here's an example to help you think about the difference between direct and circumstantial evidence. Assume that coming to the courthouse this morning, the sun shining as it is outside, and it was a nice day outdoors. Also assume that the courtroom blinds were drawn and you could not look outside. Assume further that as you're sitting here, someone walked in with an umbrella that was dripping wet. And then a few moments later, someone else walked in with a raincoat that was also dripping wet. Now, because you could not look outside the courtroom, you couldn't see whether it was raining. And because no witness has said that it is raining, you can no direct evidence of the fact that it is raining. But on the combination of the facts that I have asked you to assume, it would be reasonable and logical for you to conclude that it was in fact raining. That is all there is, circumstantial evidence. Now, there's a lot of circumstantial evidence in this case. There's a lot to the testimonies, right? Now, one of the most important as jurors is to evaluate the credibility of witnesses who will testify before you. That is how truthful they are. Carefully, witness testifies during both direct and examination, and consider whether is telling. It will be up to you to decide which witness to believe, which witness not to believe, and how much of any witness's testimony to accept or reject. You all, as we go down the line, what this man said, here, y'all, we're gonna get to this stuff. Okay, thank you. What's up, TC? So where we at? Hold on, just in case somebody else needs. Where we at? Sometimes it's not what a witness says, but how he or she says it that may give you a clue as to whether or not to accept the version of the incident or an event as credible or credible. But the way a witness may play an important part in your judgment as to whether or not you can accept the witness's testimony as reliable. You may hear from law enforcement officials in this case. The fact that a witness may be employed as a law enforcement official does not mean that his or her testimony is deserving of greater or weight than that of an ordinary witness. You may also hear from witnesses testifying using pseudonyms, that not using their real. Hold on. The government, the defense, the court, and you, the jury, know their real names, but but the names will not be used in open court solely at the privacy of these individuals from disclosure to persons who are party to this case. The fact that a witness finds a pseudonym does not mean that his or her testimony is deserving of greater or lesser than weight than any of the other witnesses. Now, a few more words about your conduct. I gave you each the following instructions when you were here for the action last week, but I will repeat the instructions because they're extremely, and I'm counting each one of you to follow them. First, not to discuss anyone. Discuss it with you. This includes posting anything on the internet about the case, whether it's be on Instagram, Facebook, or any social media platform or web. Until you retire to the jury room at deliberate, you this case with including your spouse or partner or close. Don't even discuss the case with each other until you begin your actual deliberations at the end of the trial. Second, serving as a trial, have any issues with parties, the attorneys or witnesses in this, whether in the courtroom, in the hallways, in the elevators, and anywhere else. I mean, not only to avoid talking about the case, do not talk at all. Even to say good morning or to acknowledge any of these people. Someone seeing the juror in conversation with a party, lawyer, or might think that something improper was being discussed. To avoid even the appearance of impropriety, avoid any such contact conversations. I can tell you that when the parties witness the lawyers in the halls without even acknowledging your presence, they do not mean to be rude. They're following my orders because I've ordered them not to talk the court. Now, third, do not read or listen to anything outside the courtroom that relates to this case in any way. You are not to allow anyone to speak to you. If you are approached by anyone to speak about it, politely but firmly tell them that the judge has directed you because I'm ordering you not to do. If any person seeks to contact you about this case, you are required to report the incident to me by sending through the courtroom deputy and through the jury office. There was a letter from a juror today. I don't know what it said, but I found that interesting. Also, be sure that I am informed if the person that comes to the courtroom. Public trials could be. I'm sorry, this is a public trial, so it could happen. But it is important that you do not hear from them what I may have happened, what may have happened in the courtroom while I was not present. If you should see a friend or relative coming to your room, please send me a note through the deputy at your first opportunity. Fourth, do not try to do any research or make any independent investigation about the case or the brought up in this case. Do not get on to research any related case. Why are they not sequestered? Okay. Do not call up your lawyer friends and ask about the at issue here. Fifth, many of you use phones, laptops, social media, and internet and other tools of technology. You must not use these tools to communicate with anyone about this. Includes your family, friends. You may not communicate with anyone about technological devices, including through email, text messaging, or any social media websites. Finally, do not form any opinion until all the evidence is in. A case can be presented step by step, witness by witness, until all the evidence is before you. Be open mind until you start your deliberation at the end of the case. Now you are permitted to take notes during this trial. The courtroom deputy has given each of you a notepad and a pen. Please write your name on the it's redacted, or your juror number is on the cover of the pad. Do not write your name, just the number. If you do take notes, please so only on these. Remember, taking any notes you take are for your use only, and they are used only to as an aid to your memory. Your memory controls. If you do take notes, be careful not to get so involved in taking notes that you are not listening to the evidence. Once you are in deliberation, if there's a disagreement between the one juror's notes and another juror's notes, or between one juror's notes and another juror's recollection, you can ask the court reporter to read back the testimony or to have the portion of that transcript sent to you, for it is official court transcript that controls not particular juror's notes. During the course of are received into evidence, they will be marked as an example number. It's going on. Y'all know how it's supposed to go. Let's get to the opening statements. It said the open are neither evidence nor argument. They are simply outlines of believes the evidence given to help the evidence. Moving on to the opening statements. I'm going to get to. Where is it? Where's her? Okay, Miss Johnson. This is the I call it showing support. Go. I came for you, not ZX peace. All right. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right. So let's see. Boom, 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 boom. Yes, Your Honor. Okay. We will begin with opening statements. Is the government prepared to proceed, Honor? All right. You may proceed. She said, this is Sean Combs. To the public, Puff Daddy or Diddy, a cultural icon, businessman, larger than life. But there was another side to him, a side that ran a criminal enterprise. This trial, you are going to hear about 20 years of defendant's crimes, but he didn't do it alone. He had an inner circle of bodyguards and high-ranking employees who helped him commit crimes and helped him cover them up. Kidnapping, arson, drugs, sex crimes, bribery, and obstruction. Oh, we haven't gotten to the obstruction of justice yet, child. These are just some of the crimes that the defendant and his inner circle committed again and again. You are going to hear about all of them during this trial. Let's start now with just one night. The defendant was on the hunt for his girlfriend, a woman named Cassie. For years, the defendant physically abused Cassie. He beat her down bad. He also her to have sex with male escorts while he recorded. But that night, the defendant had lost control of Cassie. Found out Cassie was the man. Furious, he set out to find Cassie and that other man, but he couldn't do it by himself. So he took his gun and he took his bodyguards, one of the most lieutenants, to wake up his employees in the middle of the night. The defendant yelled that he was going to kill the man Cassie was with. He demanded that his employee take him to the man's home. The defendant forced the employee out of her apartment and into an SUV. They drove. The defendant and his bodyguard broke in, but no one was there. The defendant didn't give up. He kept looking for Cassie. When he finally found her, when he finally found her, he did what he had done times. He beat her brutally, kicking her in the back and flinging her around the wall. All of that wasn't enough. The defendant had to make sure he had control over Cassie's once again. So he threatened her. The defendant told her that if she tried him again, he would publicly release the videos of her sex with male escorts that he kept as blackmail, souvenirs of the most humiliating night of her life. One night in the defendant's 2 decades of crime. In one night, he and his lieutenant kidnapped an employee, broke into a man's house, and the defendant beat and blackmailed his girlfriend. We'll learn this was just the tip of the iceberg. These are not the only crimes the defendant committed. That's not the only time he kidnapped someone. Cassie is not the only woman he beat or sexually exploited. For 20 years, the defendant, with the help of his trusted inner circle, committed crime after crime. That's why we're here today. That's what this case is about. 20 years of crime is a lot to cover. So first, I'm going to walk you with the evidence in this case will show. Walk you through what the evidence that this case will show. Then I will explain to you a little bit about the charges. Then I will tell you how the government will prove that the defendant is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. So what will the evidence show? You'll learn that the defendant, who was a musician, created an empire. He had a record label, Bad Boy Records, and other businesses that he ran or controlled. These businesses made the defendant rich, and he used the money and resources from those companies to build his reputation and to feed his every desire. To do that, he relied on his inner circle of people closest to him, like his bodyguards, chiefs of staff, and other high-ranking employees who all ran aspects of his life. Together, the group worked to promote the defendant's power. They carefully cultivated and guarded his reputation, and they worked to get the defendant everything he wanted. He sometimes called himself the king. He expected to be treated like one. He expected his inner circle to cater to his every desire, including his sexual desires. For years, the defendant used his inner circle and his company resources to sexually exploit multiple women, including women he forced and manipulated into having sex with male escorts, meaning men who the defendant paid to have sex with women while he watched. No matter what, the defendant and his inner circle made sure he got everything he wanted. Many times that involved committing crimes together and then covering up those crimes. Those crimes include violent acts like when the defendant brought his bodyguards and his guns to kidnap the employee I mentioned before. But you will hear about that. You'll hear about other violence too, like when the defendant bodyguards kidnapped the same employee another time, forcing her to sit through days of a lie detector test, and when the defendant had a man's car set on fire, and when the defendants dangled a woman over a balcony. You'll hear the evidence of all of this. The defendant had impossible demands. When his employees failed to meet those demands, the defendant threw things at them, threatened them, hit them, and pressured them to take drugs. He even sexually assaulted one of them. You will also hear that the defendant used his employees to get and distribute drugs, to deliver those drugs whenever the defendant asked, including so he could give those same drugs to the women he was forcing to have sex with the male escorts. He transported those women and those escorts across state lines and even out of the country for those sex acts. And he used his inner circle and vast resources to make the women available to him. Let me be clear on this next point. This case is not about a celebrity's private sexual preferences. The evidence will show that the sexual conduct at issue is in the case. I'm sorry. Stop. The evidence will show that the sexual conduct at issue in this case was coerced and criminal because the defendant made women have sex when they did not want to because he threatened them. That's where we have the problem, right? He drugged, helped, and he lied to them and even used violence to make them do it, right? A lot of this child will focus on just two women, Cassie, who I talked about earlier, and Jane. Some of the details of what happened to Cassie and Jane may be hard to hear, but this is what the evidence will show happened. The defendant used lies, drugs, threats, and violence to coerce first Cassie and later June to have sex with him in front of male escorts. The defendant insisted that the sex occur in a very specific, highly orchestrated way. These sexual performances lasted multiple days and they involved multiple escorts. The defendant called them these encounters by different names over the years. First, freak-offs, later wild king nights or hotel nights. Week after week, the defendant directed freak-offs in hotels across the country and sometimes out of the country. At times, the defendant had escorts and the women traveled from from out of state so that the defendant's staff sometimes organized flights, cars, and hotels. The defendant's business paid these expenses. The defendant had particular demands for freak-offs. At his direction, the defendant's staff set up the room in advance with supplies like his preferred lighting, extra linens, and lubricant. His staff, I'm sorry. Sorry. His staff remained on call to refresh anything the defendant needed, like cash to pay for the escorts or drugs for the women and the defendant. The hotel rooms were dark. The defendant instructed Cassie and Jane how to look, to dress in lingerie, wear tall high heels, and have manicured white nails. The defendant selected drugs for Cassie and Jane to take, usually MDMA, that's Molly or ecstasy. Sometimes those drugs made Cassie and Jane sick, but they also made the women more uninhibited and sexually aroused. The defendant fed Cassie and Jane drugs throughout the freak-offs so they could stay awake and perform for him for hours and days at a time. Once an escort arrived, the defendant dictated every step of the sexual activity that followed. Sexual activity that followed the same pattern. And he expected the women to enjoy themselves, to appear to while they did it. The defendant masturbated throughout the freak-offs and often recorded part of them. Now, I want to tell you more about Cassie and about Jane. Cassie was a 19-year-old model, an aspiring singer with a hit song when she met the defendant in 2006. The defendant was 17 years older than her and the head of a record label. Soon, Cassie was signed to a 10-album deal with the label. The defendant pursued Cassie, and within a year, they were dating. They stayed together on and off until about 2018. During that time, Cassie tried to work on her music and modeling and acting, but the defendant made her turn down many opportunities. Instead, he paid for Cassie's cars, her apartment, and some of her day-to-day expenses. Although Cassie recorded music constantly, the defendant and the head of her record label had the final say on the music that she released. It was never another album. He does that. Diddy is horrible with that. Hold on, let me see. Rick said he don't care who did it. He wants to come after Ness because he wants to come after Ness. What? Tweety in 2 chats at one time. Tweety is in 2. You busted. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. Where you been? I was at Rick's house. I've done that too many times to count, child. All right, where we at? There was never another album. Diddy he'll be having all of these different artists, and none of them will do another freaking album. He got like a record company full of one-hit wonders. Crazy. Anyway, the defendant started abusing Cassie early on. Initially, Cassie fought back, but time and time again, the defendant hit Cassie in the head, threw her on the ground, kicked her, and dragged her by her hair. In 2009, the defendant threw Cassie to the floor of an SUV and stomped her repeatedly in the face. When I saw the photos from that incident, I was just outdone. To hide her injuries, the defendant forced Cassie to stay in a hotel for the next week. He refused to let her leave, and he had a staff check on her to make sure she stayed put. But she said she left. I wrote that in my notes. I don't know. Child. The defendant also introduced Cassie to freak-offs early on. Soon, the defendant made it to Cassie's job to find and book. Made it Cassie's job to find and book escorts for freak-offs. Freak-offs that were happening as often as once a week for days at a time, meaning that for almost half of every week, Cassie was in a dark hotel room, high and awake for days, performing sex acts that she did not want to do on male escorts. Cassie will tell you how she felt like she was choking when the defendant made an escort urinate in her mouth, and how she overdosed at a freak-off when she still had an open wound on her face, the defendant's most recent assault. The defendant physical attacks on Cassie happened at freak-offs too, as you will see on a video during this trial. The defendant hit and kicked Cassie in the hallway of an LA hotel, trying to drag her back to the room where they had been with an escort. We'll talk more about that video later. Cassie tried to the first freak off because she loved the defendant and wanted to make him happy. After that, she knew it was not something she wanted to do. But because of the defendant, it became almost everything she did. Because if Cassie did not do what the defendant wanted, the consequences were severe. Physically, the defendant beat her viciously, exploding over even the tiniest light and beating her to show who was in charge. He beat her when she didn't answer the phone when he called. He beat her when she left a freak off without his permission. He beat her when he thought she took too long in the bathroom. The defendant taught Cassie that defying him could and often would end in violence. And then she tried to run away. He also found her, often with the help of his inner circle. And Cassie's career and livelihood were also in the defendant's hands, something the defendant made clear to Cassie. He told her he could destroy her career by releasing the videos that he recorded of her performing sex acts on dozens and dozens of male escorts. So Cassie knew that failing to please the defendant, refusing his demands, had more than just physical consequences. It had the power to ruin her life. The defendant's control and the defendant's violence, and the defendant's threats. That is how the defendant ensured Cassie could not say no to him. So time and time again, when the defendant suggested Cassie that they have freak off, she knew she had no choice but to agree and went to work setting one up. She texted the escorts, arranged for them to come to the hotels, and put on the performance that the defendant wanted. Her livelihood and her safety depended on keeping him happy. Cassie's relationship with the defendant was complicated. You will hear during the trial that both Cassie and the defendant were unfaithful, jealous, and at times angry. But only one of them had power. Only one had control, and that was the defendant. And with that power and with that control, he made Cassie do his bidding in those dark hotel rooms. You'll learn that Cassie was not the only woman the defendant did this to. This was part of a pattern. Now, I want to tell you about Jane. Jane was a single mom who started spending time with the defendant in 2020. The defendant pursued the romance, Jane, who fell in love with him quickly. Jane was not seeing other men, but the defendant was seeing other women at the time. So his relationship with Jane was not all public. For the first few months, their sex life was just the two of them, and Jane was happy. That was until the defendant introduced Jane to freak-offs. One night, when they had already taken drugs and had been having sex for hours. You know what? It's really crazy that this other witness is going somewhere, because he is propositioning them and blackmailing them. Sometimes you got to tell Diddy no. Right now, this is what I was thinking about when I was just reading that just now. They gave Cassie the perfect alley-oop, right? Alley-oop. Yeah, I'm saying that right. And I feel like she didn't make the basket. And the only way I could describe it is when we get to her testimony. Her testimony isn't until day 2. This is day 1, clearly, because I'm doing the opening. Oh, it's 10 o'clock. I'm doing the opening. I'm gonna finish their opening, but y'all tell me. I'm gonna post a poll. Do you all want me to uh do day 1 or day 2? I'm gonna read the opening arguments, and then tonight, and then tomorrow when I come back live, I'll put up a poll and I'll find out if whether or not y'all want to do y'all want to get to the testimony, because we have the LAPD cop and the security officer at the hotel, which was very interesting. We have the first male escort that's coming up, right? So y'all let me know, because I know y'all want to get to what Cassie's been saying, but also y'all could tune in and be in the courtroom like y'all was there and make your own decisions, and so where we at? Jane agreed to try one of these freak offs um to make the defendant happy. To her surprise, the defendant said he would make it happen immediately that very night. He took her to a hotel where a room was already set up and the escort was on the way. Jane was nervous and the defendant directed her step by step. Jane thought the first freak off was a one-time wild night. Jane was wrong. The defendant continued asking Jane to have freak offs and promising that if she did, they would spend quality time together. They would go on dates together. They would go on trips. That Jane wanted more than anything, a real relationship. So she agreed. She helped plan the freak offs and reach out to the escorts. But even though the defendant promised her quality time and trips, he never delivered. Those were just lies he told her to get more nights in dark hotel rooms with escorts. Jane will tell you about those nights in detail, how she wanted the escorts to wear condoms, but many times the defendant did not let them. And Jane will tell you how he had her take drugs to stay awake and aroused for days. Jane tried twice to make it through these nights without drugs. The first time she broke down and took ecstasy to finish performing for the defendant. The second time Jane vomited after having sex with an escort. They always vomited. All of them. Like, there's always some vomit involved. How did the defendant respond? He told her to hurry back up and get into the room where another escort was waiting. Early on, Jane told the defendant that she did not like freak-offs. She just wanted to be alone with him. She loved him desperately and wanted a real relationship with him. The defendant did not listen. Feeling stuck and sick of the strangers the defendant kept bringing to the hotel rooms, Jane tried to assert herself in small ways. She found 2 men who performed in pornography and she invited them to join the freak-offs. That way, Jane could be at least choose the men she was forced to be intimate with. Like he did with Cassie, the defendant eventually took steps to control Jane financially. The defendant wanted Jane available to meet him at a moment's notice and discouraged her from working. Jane's income plummeted. The defendant gave Jane money and later started paying the rent for the house that she lived with her child. That way, when Jane resisted the freak-offs and told him over and over again that she wanted to stop, he had the power to coerce her back into the hotel rooms. This is the witness that they needed, child. And just as, yeah, you know what? And I do too. I do too. All right. Let me see. JC, you know how to get off of here?
Yeah, I think it just says leave right here on the bottom right hand corner. So I'll see you in the morning.
All right, see you in the morning.
See you guys. Have a good
All
night.
All right, good night.
Bye,
you know what? I'm gonna really go get into this on the weekend. So let me just get through this, and then I gotta because oh yeah, I'm back. Family time is a beautiful thing. Yes, it is, ma'am. Yes, it is. All right. So let me put this. It goes on for a while. I'm gonna put a pin in this. I'm gonna start back with I'm gonna start back at 112 where the players dwell. Okay. I'm gonna come in and why did it say one? This says 112, but the page is 31, right? I'm gonna stop there and we'll get back to it. All right. ZX, I'm getting ready to get off because I gotta get some rest. But thank you for joining me. Any last thoughts so
All I
far?
wanted to do, all I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to do, I just really wanted to put something in the mix. I've been listening to you.
Mm-hmm.
I think that yesterday I typed in the chat, I think the prosecution is overdoing it. I'm glad that Puffy got a lot of men. Women, I understand what you're hearing is vile, is disgusting. And what I was me as a man, I'm thinking these people are having sex with Puffy. Now that would have been like the story. Yeah, Puffy's gay. Haven't heard none of that. Puffy's a cockhole. And men are familiar with that. A man that's a cockhole likes to watch other men have sex with their woman.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I think is going to get him off with this trial with no convictions is because as a man,
Mm-hmm.
to hear a woman confess she picked out the prostitutes, she paid the prostitutes, and she had a relationship with them where they liked one another. Now, the abuse, I don't agree with, but you are no prisoner. You live down the street. You could have left. You could have wrote a note. You supposed to have been trying to escape from Alcatraz. As a man, we understand Puffy got $1 billion. And this young lady, whether it was by design or not, she was using him just as much as he was using her. And she consented to it, Jane and Cassie. They both consented. Nobody was forced. There were no children. They were adults. They were naive, but they were adults. And when you throw in all of this assault and battery, like you said, that ain't what he charged with. He is not charged with
Yeah, and
assault and battery.
that's when I want to make myself clear. The judge gave specific instructions, right? This is what you're going to consider as evidence. This is what's not evidence. The opening statements, just based on the opening statements, I'm listening for this stuff. You know what I'm saying? When Cassie takes a stand, and I don't know where this other person is, but I fully believe, as somebody who has studied psychology, for somebody who has been in relationships, um having made good decisions, bad decisions, I mean, clearly nothing remotely close on this level, but also the line of work I had previously, I've heard stories, right? And my clients have uh uh told me, what's up, Kimberly? When my clients have told me these stories, they I'm gonna keep it a buck. This doesn't sound any different than some of the stories I've heard of people in impoverished communities who utilize drugs, who exchange sex for sex for drugs and stuff like that, and they have controlling husbands and stuff like that, and they just like junkie stunts, you know what I mean? And the sex gets wild and out there because of the type of drugs they're using and everything. That's why they're getting into the ketamine and the Molly and all that stuff. You know, it causes certain things, right? However, there is a such thing as coercion. There is a such thing as trafficking. And ignorance of the law is not a defense. You know what I mean? So, one thing about the law, if I consent to sex in the beginning of the night and sometime at some point in the night I'm done and I don't want to do it no more, and you just had some, you do not have a right to it anymore. It could be while we are having sex. It could be at any point. If someone says, "Nah, I'm good. I don't want," it's over. I know that this exists. These type of scenarios happen. I'm listening to the testimony, and I'm waiting for her. I'm waiting for the point in the night when she says, so then we had just finished and I was sore, my mouth was hurting, whatever. And I said no. And then that's when he attacked me. I was waiting to hear those testimonies, right? So it's not there. So I don't think that the prosecution is trying it so much. If the evidence was there, am I making any sense? What's up, Kimberly?
You're making a lot of sense. You're making a lot of sense. My understanding is that there is a video that will be played of Cassie enjoying the sex.
And
Enjoying.
right. And there would be times when it felt like her testimony was contradicting, because it'll be like, yeah, but because I didn't want to, but then she'll say something like, it'll just be like a little extra, like she say one word too much, and you just go, and you will see people the courtroom going.
Right. Can I give you a little bit of historical fact, and then I'll be quiet?
White women.
Right. Well, the majority, if I heard you right, majority of the jurors are white men, right?
Yes, it's
okay.
10
Let me give you some historical fact. The Mann Act is really what he's being locked up for.
I'm just trying to grab something. Go ahead.
Okay, the same thing that R. Kelly was. The Mann Act. The Mann Act was created in 1910, and it was created to stop Jack Johnson from being with white women. And if whether they were prostitutes, here's prostitution. Prostitution would be if I give you money for sex, I give you money. Everything that we're hearing is Cassie paid for sex, whether or not.
Right, and that's where the circumstantial evidence comes in at, because let's just keep it a buck. She ain't had the money to be doing all of this.
I get it.
So he was fronting it, and he had enough sense to say, "I'm not putting my name on none of this shit."
And that was smart. Now, look, there's another white guy. His name was Hugh Hefner, the Playboy Bunny Mansion. During the 60s, during the 70s, the 80s, Hugh Hefner was flying white girls in from all across the country, having Playboy Bunny Mansion. I mean, the Playboy Bunny, he had what? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 blondes. He loved blonde young girls that were 30, 40 years younger than him. He paid them. They lived there. They were also escorts. What's the difference? There is no difference.
Listen,
It's
his
just,
ass. That's like when people say, when talking about R. Kelly, and they say, "Well, the parents this and the parents that." Well, you know what I say to that? The parents should be in jail too.
Exactly.
Two. In addition to, not the parents should be in jail instead of. Two.
All I'm hearing is Puffy was an abusive man. He Ike Turner. He's another Ike.
This is the thing. He is what we can say is a fact. Diddy is a narcissist.
Right.
And narcissist is a trait. He could have narcissistic personality disorder, or it could be a trait of another type of personality disorder. You know what I mean? Where he might be a sociopath or a psychopath. And I would say, if I had to diagnose, I would say he was a psychopath, right? And when you're dealing with a psychopath, you are dealing with a lot. You know what I'm saying? No lack of empathy and all that other type of shit, right? And they just take pleasure in, like it's like sadomasochist. Now, this is the thing. this is what I'm, and I don't know which one is Visator or masochist. There are people, who enjoy being urinated on. I'm not,
Mm.
you understand what I'm saying? There are people who enjoy being urinated on. There are people who enjoy threesomes. There are people who enjoy certain aspects of sex that we might deem to be deviant, right? I'm gonna say it's deviant. I'm gonna say something wrong with
It
them.
is deviant.
However, you know, there's people who get into that shit. They get off on voyeurism and stuff like that. I know I have a associate who is into what she said, what's it called? Amory, amory, and
Cameras.
polyamorous. And she has shared with me that she has in linking up with people on apps and stuff like that. She is also into BDSM,
I don't
right?
know.
BD something. She like to get choked and shit, right?
The choke stroke. The choke stroke. I know about that.
No,
Yeah.
not the choke stroke. Is different. Like she needs to use safety words and shit. Now I have said to myself, I don't never want to turn on the news and see this girl met up with somebody or for Tinder, something like that, and something happened to her. I do worry. You understand what I'm saying? But
You
since
remember the dude in New York? You remember the dude in New York? Was it like 1980, 81, where he claimed that they had rough sex and he choked her to death in the park? You remember
yeah,
that white guy? And he
yeah.
beat the case. He beat the case.
I didn't know about that. But what I'm trying to figure out, based on what she's saying, I get the abuse. I know that you were in a toxic, abusive relationship, and that could be very easy. It could be, it's very plausible that he beat you into submission and got you to do these things with these people. You understand what I'm saying? And you didn't want to. But I'm waiting to hear it come out of her mouth in such a way to where when I'm talking to, like, when I talk to my clients and they tell me these terrific stories about when they were prostitutes and stuff like that, you know, there's certain ways that they deliver the message. Some people's like, yeah, I got $50. Hell yeah. Piss in my hand and and I'll be like, girl, you know what I'm saying? In my head, I can't do that. I gotta keep a straight face. But I'll be like, this sounds crazy. But they don't say that, you know, even if they didn't too much care for it or whatever, they get their money. And in that case, it's consensual. So I want to hear, you know, it was so, her answers are so vague. I can't wait to, and I have I have her first day's testimony. I really am inclined to go into day one's testimony, like over, and tomorrow bring you Cassie's, so that way we could get past, so y'all can see what I'm talking about. Because when you go into these blogs and they saying certain things, I heard Tisa Tells was saying that the prosecution had a horrible day. Everybody's waiting to hear, are you really not into this shit? Is it that you realize that what you all were doing was running a enterprise, racketeering? You know, you and him together. So do I be a victim or a offender? I'm trying to, because at this point I'm like, are you a victim or are you an offender? That's what I'm trying to fucking figure out right now.
And
And
she
there's a
could be
lot
both. Two things can be true at the same time.
of
And and so to the point where she has been given all these drugs. She's taken them willingly at first, and then, of course, maybe as during the night, as the course of the night goes on, more are given to her. Then that impedes your thought process when you're under the influence of drugs. You may not even have the capability to say no when you're under the influence of drugs. And if I'm not mistaken, when I heard
mhm.
the testimonial part about where she was urinated in her mouth by the two people, P. Diddy and the escort, She was like on. She said she was on the floor, and it seemed like to me it sounded like she was more. She was not cohesive. She wasn't coherent, and so she was not able to say no or stop. I don't want to do this. So I feel like a lot of times when you're under the influence of, matter of fact, I don't know. I know this for a fact because anyway, people
Mhm.
when they're under the influence of heavily drugs, like they claim to be, have been under their the inhibition to say yes or no is out the wall, and that's a legal thing. That's one reason why you can't give
Right.
consent
You
when
can't
you're
give consent when you're under the influence, right?
exactly,
Now,
exactly.
this is how I'm looking at it, right? There's been many a days that I have not been under the influence of the type of shit they've been under the influence of. You know what I'm saying? So I can't speak to it, but I've had some drunken love, before. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So I'm just trying to figure out. And the fact that I'm saying I'm just trying to figure out says a lot, y'all. Please
and and, you-
admit it.
and when you're under, like, I'm like, this is a thing I feel like a lot of people are missing, but I hear the prosecution keeps stressing the point. Well, Cassie keeps stressing the point about the drug usage and how that drug usage changes your mental capacity
Yes,
to
it
make
does.
rational
So
decisions for
right. So
yourself.
then right. So things that you have so this is my question. There are things that I have consented to, and I'm not talking about sex. I'm not talking about anything in particular. There's things that I have consented to, and I would never take back the fact that I've consented to it that I now regret. It doesn't have to be sexual. It could be anything. I said I would work at this damn job. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, nah, I don't want to do this no more. And you stop. But
See, that's what I'm saying.
How
When you
long?
want
Can I ask one question? I think, and I'm just speaking for men. Men are going to ask this
don't
question.
make it agenda. Don't make it agenda thing.
No,
Just
no, no, because that's going to be a part of the evaluation, and I think you may be shocked that men look at things different than women. And me being a man, I look at things
you're
differently.
sure, of course
I
you do,
want to.
and your
Here's
opinion is
my
valued.
here's my question.
mm-hmm.
How long are we talking about? Months or
No, we're talking
years?
about 11 years.
That's a long time. That's a very long time.
We're
No
talking about
man is going.
11 years. And this is the thing. To Monty's point, I feel you. I wouldn't want to either. But if I wrote a book about it and I was getting ready to sell it to the public and I was trying to get it published, then I shouldn't be so hesitant on this stand.
Well,
To
I think also the fact is she accepted $50 million too in
it
the
wasn't 50.
settlement.
It wasn't
No,
50.
it was 20.
It was 20 million.
It
Okay,
came out in the
20.
testimony. It was 20 million.
If it was 20, it still looks bad. Accepting the money under those prior to the case. Prior to the case.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a good look because what it says to me is that that's what you ultimately wanted anyway was the money. And
I
I'm just giving you
right.
So what at one point did you think she wanted the money? At the beginning of the 11 years when it was first, when she turned 22 and it was the first initially introduced to her, or at the latter part of when 2018, their last encounter?
The
Because
money was
you want
flowing.
me to be honest?
The money was
yeah,
flowing.
I would like for you to be honest, of course.
The money
I
was
think
flowing
from the
the entire time. See,
I
this is
think
what I'm
from the beginning she
this is
wanted
what
she
I'm trying
wanted
to
to
get.
be a star. She wanted to be a star. She saw him as an outlet or a device to get her to stardom.
Of course,
He
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 had
he
means. Yeah,
right. He invested a little bit of time. He might have played with her a little bit. And then when the albums weren't there because she only had one debut, But if at that point where if she felt as though, well, damn, I ain't getting another shot at another album, let me continue until I get another shot at the
Right,
album.
and
He
that's what,
also
and that is what they're trying to prove. That's coercion.
no, no, by law, I get
It's
it.
a form of
But
conversion.
I'm telling you how men are going to look at it.
Sure,
I'm not, I
sure.
understand the
And
law.
that's
I'm
why
telling you,
they got 10 angry men up in there. But this is what I'm
no,
trying to get at.
the men are gonna be sympathetic because we have been taking advantage of women.
Right. But this is the reality. The reality is what has happened in this young woman's life does constitute, if I were to look at the circumstantial evidence, does constitute
Conversion.
conversion, coercion and stuff like that, right? There's violence, which means that she might have been afraid to not. All of that stuff is circumstantial, right? The woman is on the stand, able to put her abuser behind bars where he rightfully may deserve to be. And she's on the stand, not being so passive that in her responses, to where people who are listening, like, I'm not trying to sit here and say, yeah, you know what, and men do this all the time. That's not what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is the facts. The facts is right now, the way the prosecution case is going, and their star witness is about to be off the stand tomorrow and have a whole ass baby, and she said everything that she had to say. She ain't said shit yet. That's what I'm trying to get the audience.
Right,
Right. Right. I understand
You
that.
know what I'm saying? That's what I'm
right.
trying to get the audience to understand. As y'all are tuning in and everything like that, I have witnessed people who I have been in the cafeteria with. I'm not going to name names, right? Who have said the prosecution ain't doing their job. This ain't going right. Da 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 da. And then
Then
I
that
have gone
pressure.
to their live and seen them talking about it the way that they have always been about talking about it. They don't want to eat the crow. And if I and some other people didn't come on and say, listen, this was really going down in the courtroom, people would be, if he were to get off, people would be like, how the fuck did they let him off when Cassie was there and this happened and that happened and we know this happened and we had, because we've been doing the investigation, the boots were on the ground as far as the content creators on YouTube, and those traditional news affiliates,
Outlets.
outlets, they are understanding the magnitude of these YouTubers. I'm watching them talking, I see the
Well,
conversation. I'm just
yeah.
sitting
Well,
back.
then it's a lot of major networks, like
There's a lot of
women.
major networks. And not
That's
only that,
on YouTube now. So
there's a lot of major networks. I was sitting in the courtroom. Oh, I forgot to tell y'all what happened when I got something to tell you. It was some kind of supernatural stuff, and I came home and I burned sage, and I'm. What happened was I'm sitting there. I'm sitting with we starting to get to know each other and everything. So I'm sitting with one of my peoples that I've been going watching the trial with and everything. We chit chat after and all that stuff, but during break and everything. Cassie proceeds to say, now I don't give a damn what's been coming out of her mouth. It was a supernatural occurrence. Cassie, right before she's testifying, she's talking about, she's leading up to when she was sexually assaulted, when he raped her, right? It got dark. You can see the window. It got dark. I'm sitting there like, and so the whole room, it literally got dark outside. So I'm like, damn, it's dark in here. And she talked about some dark shit. And then as soon as she said, and he raped me, the floor started to shake like it was an earthquake. In my mind, I said, if I go home and I don't see that there was an earthquake in New York, I'm going to feel away. Right? So at first I'm saying, am I bugging to feel like the floor shaking? The dude next to me, he was like, yo, you feel that? And I was like, oh, we was like, yeah, the fucking floor is shaking. We whispering to the floor. You feel that shit? You feel that? What the fuck? We get outside. I went live. I'm trying to get Diddy's mom coming out the courtroom. Somebody, y'all could go to my live. You could hear him. Somebody we wasn't even talking to who was on the other side of the room. He was like, yo, and as soon as she said, I was, and he raped me, the floor shook. Y'all felt that? We was like, yes. And it kept on shaking, shaking, and shaking. I was like, what the freak? We were not on the ground level. We're all the way up. My mom works in the area. I said, Mom. She said, I ain't feel no ground shaking.
I wouldn't be surprised, because there's spirits that
It
just.
was it's some wicked stuff. I was like, what the
I
hell?
wouldn't be surprised.
I was
I'm
like,
not
what
surprised
the
at all.
hell? But
So
I'm
I got one question.
about how the case is going, like from a real actual factual place. I can't even get into, my opinion, because the facts are the facts. And when I read how she's saying things, y'all gonna be like, well, why would she?
Well, I've been listening to another
Mm-hmm,
content creator that's been reading the court case
mm-hmm,
dockets,
mm-hmm,
the transcripts. And
mm-hmm.
so I understand exactly what you're saying, because she would say things like, I didn't want to do it. But at the same time, then they asked her, well, but then she'll turn around and say, but I didn't want to hurt him, or I didn't want to upset him. So she would say she didn't want to do certain things, but then would turn right around and backdoor it and say, but I didn't want to hurt him, or I
So
didn't want
as
him to date somebody. I didn't want him to date somebody else. So that kind of makes it sound like she went along with it for a reason, but the reason was on both parties, where they were manipulating each other
yeah.
for whatever reason. That each one of them wanted something from each other. My whole thing is, like I said again, about the drugs. Even if you've had any procedure or surgery, before they give you any anesthesia, before they give you any pain medications, they get a consent to do that procedure before they give you any medication, because it needs to be an informed decision. You have to give an informed consent. And that's the same principle that applies with her taking all of these different narcotics and drugs and stuff. You can't give an
Can't give
informed
consent.
consent while you're under the influence of alcohol or drugs. And so therefore, that's where the coercion. He presented these things to her, and she voluntarily took, one or two, but it came to a point where she was addicted to those things, those drugs.
And also remember, think of it in terms of what the jury is hearing. The jury hears on day one from the escort. The escort is saying, um, oh, was there was she on drugs? Like the prosecutor asking, and he keeps saying she wasn't using anything, like, oh, she wasn't high. I want to make sure. I need to know if
He
this.
has to.
Wait,
He
I need.
has to,
Wait, hold on.
or he would be indicted too for raping her, not under her proper mind. He is not dumb. If he acknowledges, yes, she was on
We know
drugs,
the
he
reason
getting
behind
charged.
it, and maybe the jury is going to say that. But if they go according to their instructions, please remember that they got instructions. If they
Mhm.
go according to their instructions, all they know is that the times that he has, he's saying that she wasn't high on anything, and the one time that she was drunk and on the couch, Diddy was like, nah, it's not gonna happen tonight.
Mhm.
So you have testimony that Diddy will, not let
Stop
something
us. Yeah.
go down if she's inebriated or plastered or whatever you want to say. And then you have another testimony to where when people when she's being asked, well, you know, did you not want to, but did you ever tell him that? He's not, she hasn't told him, she's not sharing with us. She's just assuming that he's gonna have a problem with it, right? you're not hearing about the incident. Like, well, I did tell him that I didn't want to do it, and that's when he threw me down the stairs and was like, whatever. It's like you don't have that testimony.
Right. And like
And
I
then
said,
the other
it's
girl
still
was,
early in the trial, and then of course we haven't had
no,
cross.
say it, Monty.
What did Imani say?
He said, I want to say something so bad, but I'm gonna keep it to myself. But you understand, like, I'm waiting to hear it. We got a
Yeah,
couple more questions tomorrow, and I gotta go. But we got a couple of more questions tomorrow, and we ain't got nowhere yet.
let me say this, and then I'm gonna drop down, and I'll let
Mhm.
ZX continue his statements. But I do feel like once the defense starts cross-examining her, they're not going to be as gentle with her as the prosecution,
And
right?
that's not gonna look good.
And but with that saying, when the defense comes to do they get the prosecution gets to come back, and they get to make their statement too. And I think I think they
And the
want
rope it
they,
though, but you
they want the defense to pressure her. They want it to be them to do it, not her, not the prosecution to do that, so that it can be shown in another light. They want them to put the pressure on her. They don't want to be the one to do that. And so I think that's when you're going to get her saying the things that you're looking for her to say, is when the defense gets ready to hammer her, because it's coming. It's definitely coming, and that's what the prosecution wants, for them to light that fuse up under her, and not for them to be the one to do it. That
right.
was
And so
that's
and
what
so
I
what I'm
think the
saying to
strategy
what I'm
is.
saying to Monty is, and I'm sorry that you went through that, right? I like truly, but if given the chance to tell your story, right, and place that person behind bars, you're gonna have to say something. You're gonna have to say, you can't just say literally what you just put on here is as much as I got from Cassie. I didn't want to. He was my senior. I felt fear, right? So it's like, okay, yes, we understand that. But in order for in this situation, in order for us to get to the point where it's like, oh, this girl was coerced and all that other stuff, we're going to have to hear about the incidents, right? And so far, we haven't really heard about them fully. Now there's some
Right.
things that I feel like I have glanced over. You can't catch it all. You did 8 hours. You are not going to catch every bit of things, and some of it is pivotal. So I know when I go through the transcripts, I'm going to have like another, like, oh, so on and so forth, and the jury will have the chance to do the same thing if need be, right? But right now, I'm just telling you, day 3, where we're at with things. We left day 3 with her on the stand, having been flat out raped, and the fact that she said that that time, and he raped me, that's she felt that was non-consensual. Which, if you're listening and you sitting there and you're making decisions, and the burden of proof is on the prosecution, and this man is innocent until proven guilty, it's like, okay, so all of that stuff that happened for 11 years wasn't great.
Right. No, that's why I said the period of time they've been together, it's just not going to sound right.
And
It
then
doesn't
after,
sound
so,
right.
so that's what went through my mind when I heard her say it. So, and that's the first time.
Boldly,
That's the first time she said it. Say that's the word I was looking for. Say that again.
boldly,
Not,
boldly.
yeah, boldly, but so matter of fact. She said it so matter of fact that the whole time we've been waiting for her to say things so matter of fact like that, and it's like, okay, boom. So now, matter of fact, she was great. Then you go for a quick second, and so then what was the
And
one
then
that?
she went home, and then her friend didn't even they called the police, and when the police came, she didn't even want to press charges
And
again.
then you
That's a
proceed to
contraindicating, like you've been raped, but yet and still are beat up. But you, when you have the opportunity to call the police, you didn't. But I
Right.
definitely,
I
I
don't.
still,
I understand the like. I understand that too. Like, you know, what's going to be hard for the jury to understand is then, and then what happened? You proceed to have sex with him again after the grape, and say y'all had a nice time, and then
Mhm.
after that, you talk about the fact that y'all broke up finally because he started seeing somebody else, and that's when you wanted to now you
Ah,
that you know, and now you want now y'all broke up. Then so you broke up because he started seeing somebody else. So now it's official. Y'all not together no more because not because he beat you, not because he was coerced,
Yeah.
not because because now he's with another woman. Everybody we're seeing that and we're hearing that. Then after that, you get great. Matter of fact. Then after that, you sleep with him again. Then after that, you go and you get healed and trauma and all this other stuff. Then you write a book, but you're sending him chapters of the book ahead of time. Then you don't get the book deal, so you sue him, and your book deal, you wanted it for 30 million, but instead you was able to settle out of court with this man for 20, and that's where we ended. And they're
Right.
going to bed on that.
Mhm.
It's a wild ride.
Yeah, and it's gonna be. It's because that whole story, that whole scenario is a roller coaster of emotions, and it's very heartbreaking for both
Yeah.
parties. You know, because for some reason, something he's damaged, and I'm curious to know because I'm a person that want to know the why for the
And then
situation.
I swore she was getting ready to say something like, you know, she felt bad at him and something about sexual abuse, but then she said something else, and I was like, it kept on like, so it felt like they was like giving her the like setting up the alley oop, and she never hit the basket. I'll tell you how, but mind you, I'm taking it day by day because, like I
Right.
said, when we watch, you know, trial watch, like we watch these trial watch, we'll be in the chat and we'll be either sending somebody up the river or trying to set them free, and then another day comes around and we feel completely different, be like, oh no, then you know. So I'm just gonna go day by day, you know. But thus far, they did all that raiding of the homes and all that other stuff only to get videos from her, and
No,
it's just
but
videos,
I do feel like, you know, before they
30
even have,
devices.
before they have the trial, they have the submission of evidence and what evidence will be presented during the trial. And I can't help because they said he had so many megabytes or tegabytes or tiers or whatever they call, and all of that was not going to be able to be submitted for different reasons. So I feel like there's a lot of evidence that the jury and the public will never know because it's not going to be allowed to be it wasn't allowed to be submitted, and so
But we have
that's
more. We have more trial to go.
yeah, sure
So
do.
you know, I can't. I can't make a call
Yeah, I'm not gonna make a
right
judgment
now.
call
But
either.
one of the lawyers, not one of the lawyers on the like in the courtroom, or you know, that has anything to do with the case. Just so you know, there are lawyers who are watching this. You know what I'm saying? One of the lawyers kept on, she was asking random people, if you had to make a decision to convict or whatever today, what would it be? A lot of people were saying not guilty. I would let them go, so on and so forth. She was asking just, you know, just to see where people's at. So what would you do? You know, she was this sister from Brooklyn. So what wait, so let me ask you this. And she, you know, she was saying that. So let me ask you this. You had to convict today, you know, and you she and people was just like, but that's why the judge said, don't make no decisions right now. See, I ain't
Right.
on the jury. You know what I'm saying? So today I'm like, ooh, that, you know what I'm saying? Tomorrow I might be like, yo, the cross examination. Then they came back and they had the rebuttal, and then this happened, and yeah, he's going down. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
All
I'm
right.
not gonna make any judgment, but I'm gonna drop down, let you do your show
All
thing,
right.
and I'm
Okay. I
listening.
spoke to you. Thank you, Kimberly. And you know what? Thank you. Because you
You,
came and you told me go
I
and
sure did. I'm glad you did.
right. And so then I think of you. I'll be like, okay, no, Kimberly, she put a little you know, fire under my butt. Let me get up, you know. So
Yeah,
thank you. I
yeah.
appreciate
You
it.
be out there networking. I seen memes over there with you behind you.
Yeah.
I say those are good connections. You know what I mean
Mm.
to make, and so I'm glad for you. Happy for
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Absolutely. You have a great evening.
You too. Peace. All right, and no problem. ZX, I see you. And Monty, I never caught the police on my music. Yeah, that's like par for the course. I think like 90% of them don't get reported, but don't quote me on that. Don't quote me on that. So yeah, I will give you an update tomorrow. I have to remember to bring my other journal because I don't even think that this journal is going to take me through tomorrow with this testimonies. I think I need to bring another book with me and let me go get some sleep. And yeah. All right. I am going to sleep. Thank you all so much for joining me. Stay tuned. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Hit the notification bell. For real. Like I know that, that's like a YouTube thing to say, but I don't know when I'm going to be going live. So hit the notification bell because I will be coming live. And then this weekend we could really like pound through this or whatever. You know what I mean? And get through as much of the transcript as possible. Okay. All right. Yeah, it's heavy. It's heavy. It's heavy, Monty. Yeah, I've said it all. All right. Peace. Have a good night, y'all. Later.